Hello and welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Buddy Sotelo Esquire and effervescent Everton Ginsburg. Hey, good to have you on tonight. We don't have Mike. He's feeling a little under the weather. Won't give any personal details about that. Just everybody has a sick day every once in a while, and we wish Mike the best, and hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us next week. But this is one of those grab bag shows where I don't have any specific agenda. I have some general things to talk about and some stuff that, you and I probably should have just ran the thing starting, 5 minutes ago, and we'd have 5 minutes of extra show just by us talking about everything from death to taxes and
Yeah.
yes, funeral arrangements, all that other stuff. As I said, it's always one of life's extremely unpleasant tasks to plan your own, what you do when you die and what kind of a memorial you want. And I mean, I at least have these shows, so maybe people could, put together like a best of one of my things, and entertain people for a half hour, an hour, or something like that with my best ofs. If I qualify after nearly 300 shows, they can somehow cobble together an hour of entertaining, something that would entertain people. I would consider myself fortunate, But
You should be buried in that jersey. It's
yeah, I do want to be. Well, first of all, I'm not going to be buried. I'm going to be cremated. So,
Oh.
But throw it on the pile. Yeah, I think the people probably will when they, when all said and done. I don't think anyone else is going to want to wear this thing after I'm done with it. So, yeah, it's it's just like my organs. I mean, I would love to donate my organs, but I'm pretty sure by the time I skid into home plate and I'm the mess that I am already, I don't think there's going to be anything interesting for people to want to pick apart. It's going to all be, pretty damaged merchandise by that point in time.
This is very upbeat so far.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
I the reason why that I'm leading into that is that this next week, in a couple days, would be when Mark Smith died. So that is something that's on my mind. I always mention it. I want to do a whole show about Mark Smith, but I still miss him, man. It's 14 years pretty much since he's been gone. And people say, oh, well, with time it gets easier and the memory is a blessing and all that sort of stuff. No, I mean, it doesn't get easier.
It gets easier. It's not, instead of a knife in the heart, it's like a punch in the face. That's the only way I can explain it.
But it also builds on itself. The fact that I have now missed Mark for 14 years, okay? I mean, I missed him so much when he died, of course, and the news was devastating, okay? But you just, every year that somebody's gone, it does pile on the fact that you've missed them for that much more time, and that hurts you even further, because you miss them. I've had that hole in my heart and that hole in my life that Mark left has been there for 14 years now, and that does have an effect.
Oh, I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
My dear friend Tiger Khan, his mother, when he died, gave me a piece of his jewelry that I wear as a necklace every day, and I'll be buried in it. So there's a film. They did a little documentary on me for a TV show called Extraordinary New York. It's about a half hour.
That was so cool.
Yeah. They actually brought a film crew up to my house, and
they did a good job. They did a really good job.
Yeah, that's the trailer. The actual episode will be debuting soon, and but in that episode, I actually show Tiger's jewelry that he wore, that his mother gave to me when he died, and and it reminded me last night when I was watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Letterman, who's not known for being particularly emotional, really got teary-eyed talking about Warren Zevon, and it was very powerful, very powerful, and yeah, because you're not used to seeing Letterman like that. So, and he said it was 22 years since he last saw him, and it's still, you could see it. It still hurt, and so time heals all wounds is exaggerated, but it lessens the pain. That's the best way I could explain it.
Until you get a reminder.
Oh
until
yeah,
life gives you that reminder. And it's always, it's never, sometimes it's the date, but sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's a sound. Sometimes it's a gag or a joke or a line that you and the other person shared on a frequent basis. What, my mom died in 1997, and it's always hard for me to hear James Taylor stuff because I mean, he's a fantastic musician. I absolutely love his work, but so much of it every song that he sang was something that, reminds me of my mom. It's the one really like musical thing that we had in common because my mom was a big country music person, and classical, and that I know you're more diverse and you love all that stuff, but I'm not. I use really twangy country stuff, and just the.
I don't like commercial country. Like thank God I'm American.
Yeah,
the
Garth
patriotic
Brooks.
stuff. But some of the alt country, these guys are really almost like blues musicians.
Well, I would agree with that, like a Chet Atkins, or maybe like Earl Scruggs as an example.
Well, even guys like Jerry Lee Lewis, when they were doing straight country, I could get into it because it's Jerry Lee Lewis, great musician,
Sure.
great musician.
Well, there's that rockabilly kind of like shade, where it's a country rock kind of jazzy boogie woogie combo, southern flair. Like you could say, where does country music and like Leonard Skinner begin, for instance? I mean, where
it's
are
all
those
branches of the same tree. Every year when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame comes around, I get into these conversations with people, and people that really understand music. They understand that, for example, rock comes from R&B, and disco and rap are all cousins. So when people
they all come from soul, they all come from if you go further back, either Native American cultures or African cultures or whatever, that kind of rhythm, that kind of beat, that kind of, those kind of song subjects. Obviously, people singing about somebody loving somebody else, that's probably about as old as human music can possibly get. My point has always been they should just rename the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the Modern Music Hall of Fame. I know when they started it, they were always like, well, Cleveland's the home of rock and roll kind of thing. And that gave it its sort of built-in legitimacy. But as it's moved on, it's really become just a musical Hall of Fame,
Which is fine because I love all kinds of music.
But people love to argue it with the rock and roll thing. They love to say that's not rock and roll, so it doesn't belong there.
The irony of it is I grew up in a black neighborhood, and I was weaned on R&B and jazz and blues and later hip hop. And, when I'm watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't know from the White Stripes, and I'm sitting there going, "These guys are great musicians." I shouldn't say guys; one's a woman.
If you've gone to any arena in the last 20 years, you know who the White Stripes are because they played
I'm just saying, until I watched that show, I didn't know who they were.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah, I'll get you.
I didn't grow up on this stuff, and now that I'm getting older, I'm finally going to see groups like Lynyrd Skynyrd and Jethro Tull. I should say Ian Anderson at this point. But I've gone to see a lot of rock bands, and I appreciate Deep Purple. I went to see, and I appreciate the musicianship. more so than the vocals many times. But great music is great music. I just saw Devo and the B-52s and Lena Lovitch a couple of weeks ago, and it was great. It was a great show, and great music is great music, and great artists are great artists. But when people do that's not music. If you watch the Outcast segment on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last night, they had 20 musicians on stage. How could it not be music? That's just stupid,
Yeah, well, I mean, people are always, I mean, music's just one of those things that, brings people together as much as it separates them apart. With people arguing over musical styles and what's good music versus what's
But to
bad
deny
music.
it's music is that's absurd. Come on.
Well, we see it in the wrestling community to tie it back into the show. I mean, the people who are so, rabid AEW people or rabid WWE people, and they fight tooth and nail over saying, we've got the better product. We're the better wrestling. You guys are the fakers. You guys are the imposters. You guys are hackneyed or old or you're too small or you have too many titles or you have too many old people. It's always something that, as we said, and it was so weird because we've talked about this before, but it bears reiterating. As you know, instead of watching the WWE anymore, first of all, it's not even on now most of the time because I've got that weird deal with ESPN where ESPN doesn't show, even though I'm paying plenty of money for ESPN, they somehow find a way not to show me the WWE pay-per-view stuff. So I'm kind of the WWE is kind of circulating its way out of my life, and I'm not upset. I'm not tremendously upset by that. So if you ask me what the most recent thing is happening in the WWE right now, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I have no idea. It's just not on. I think I could get 1 hour of it on one of the networks that's on, on now if I really wanted to. And I'm not taking the time out it's not appointment television for me. I don't go to the internet dirt sheets and read them all and try to stay up to date with that because it's just, and you've said it yourself over the last number of years, it's just gotten harder and harder and harder to watch. There are handfuls of matches that are good, but instead what I've been doing is going on to YouTube and helping myself to old vintage stuff. I'm really enjoying it. As hackneyed as some of the stuff is and as old as some of it is, I'm really enjoying one of the things that to me is like a fine wine. And when you open it up, you really enjoy what you're watching. And I would suggest anyone go on to YouTube and check out what's there for Mid-South. Mid-South Wrestling, to me, when I was growing up, the WWE was great, and that was the thing I could always find. And the AWA was on all the time in my area. When I found Mid-South Wrestling on TBS at the time, Turner Broadcasting, that opened up my eyes as far as what wrestling really could be. And that was the thing that made me so excited to watch the matches in Mid-South. The booking in that time frame was phenomenal. And the Mid-South matches are still worth watching today. So I'll throw that back to you so I'm not doing a Mike diatribe on top of you.
Oh, no doubt. The Freebirds, JYD, Butch Reed, Ted DiBiase, Mr. Olympia, Jerry Stubbs. I mean, it was great. It was a great era. And at one point, when they sort of merged with the NWA, I was seeing UWF matches on NWA.
Oh, I love those. I love the UWF. And not necessarily the Herb Abrams part. But
no, that's a totally different organization. But when they had one night, they had Dr. Death Steve Williams against Dick Murdoch. They put on one of the greatest matches I ever saw for the UWF belt. And I just want to put an asterisk next to something you said before. You said there's not a lot of good matches in WWE. I disagree. There's a lot of good matches. What's lacking is there's not a lot of great matches. You know, you have all these great wrestlers putting on disappointingly, you know, just okay good matches, and it's like they're doing the same 5 moves, and they're going. You know, a lot of them are going through the motions. The Shell of Nakamura, and the Miz is doing the same vanilla match for 20 years, and you know, Reigns is walking.
You never know when they're going to bring back Randy Orton. You know, he's always like waiting in the wings to like pull him out from mothballs, or they might throw the Undertaker in one more time, or you know, bring the Rock back, or
exactly. Cena. Everybody that thinks Cena's retiring, mark my words. I'm saying it first. When the Saudis offer this guy millions of dollars for WrestleMania 43, he'll be right back. And this guy doesn't turn down a paycheck. This guy does so much crap TV and crap movies and puts his voice on every third commercial. This guy doesn't turn down paychecks. He's going to be back by WrestleMania 43. I'm saying it first. And take it.
There's even talk that AEW wants to try to throw money at him and bring him into AEW. You know, and
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, he can retire from the WWE. And that doesn't mean that he's done wrestling. You know, the AEW, he never said he would ever work for any other wrestling company again. So, you know, he would technically not have lied to the public, but, you know, that's obvious.
Hey, Terry Funk had 37 retirement matches.
And Ric Flair could come back.
Yeah. I went to see Bruno Sammartino's retirement match in 1981. He wrestled George the Animal Steele at the Meadowlands. The place was 3/4 empty. The match was 6 minutes. The undercard was nothing special. And then the guy wrestled until 1987. So you know, these retirement deals in wrestling, you got to take it all with a grain of salt, even Cena, you know?
Yeah, unless you're so messed up physically that you can't get in the ring, period. I mean, Draws is not going to come back and wrestle anytime soon for the WWE. I think he's retired.
Well, he's dead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That you know, there are, but you know, when after he got crunched and all that stuff, he wasn't going to come back in. There's a certain level you are done.
I was at Madison Square Garden years ago, and they were hyping The Undertaker in the main event in a 6-man match. And they said he hadn't been at the Garden in 7 years. So that was the draw, that The Undertaker was back. And if you put $1 million cash, if you put $10 million cash in front of me, I could not name the 6 guys that were in that match.
Probably they're not even in the WWE anymore.
Yeah, that's how mediocre the thing was. And, you know, he did the walk to the ring, and the fans popped, and he did his spots. And, you know, that's how you handle a past his prime legend. You just, you know, let him come in and then pop the crowd. But they're not going to put on the same level of matches when they're 60 that they were when they were 30. Simple as that.
No, and that's why, you know, a lot of times I do gravitate more towards AEW, but I'm watching AEW more now just because it's easier for me to watch. I don't have to, you know, get some kind of crazy subscription to something. And, you know, that I still think that might be one of the things that really hurts, not just wrestling, but sports and entertainment in general, just the proliferation of these streaming services that you got to pay extra. You seem to, no matter what you're paying for cable, it's not enough. And there's always some other package you got to pay for. Yeah. And it was one thing when it's pay-per-view and you just bought the one event you were interested in. But now they want to rope you into a subscription, so you're chained to them for X number of months or years.
Well, last night when I watched the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was literally the first time I turned on that Disney Plus channel. And I'm paying $20 a month. But I'm a music lover, so I watch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame every year, but now it's on Disney. So, you know, $20 a month, it adds up. And
yeah, it does.
$20 a month for DAZN because I love boxing. And, right there, that's $40. Peacock, that's another $10 or whatever. You start
Yeah.
adding it all
And it's $10 with ads. You
with
got to
ads.
pay
Yeah.
more to get the ads away from you. And it's just like, you're already earning money. You're already getting my money. Why are you even like conning me for ads too? It's just,
And
it
I can't
is.
watch the movies with the ads. It just takes me out of it. I just won't watch movies that way. I'll
Well,
go.
there's
I'll
no
go. I'll
point.
go to the public library. Just take out a dozen DVDs of recent movies. They get every
Well, you
new.
also have that movie pass, don't you? They
Oh
still
yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah. I could go to Regal Unlimited, 26 a month. I recommend that to any movie buffs. But at the same time, I don't feel like going to the movies every day of the week. So
And there's stuff that's not available anymore, even on DVD or whatever. I mean, the Netflix stuff. Now, the Netflix has some great series and things, but you can't see it. Same with the WWE. You can't see it unless you stream it. There's no other place to get it. There isn't, can't go rent it somewhere or go see it somewhere else. But
or
I
you
don't
can
feel
get box sets of stuff, but that gets pricey.
sure. And even then, I mean, do you ever go back and rewatch stuff? I will say that, I have the huge collection of videos on my computer, probably hundreds of them. I uh, I have lots of stuff that I say I'm gonna watch it, and I never get to watch it. It just sits there in collects dust virtually, on my computer.
I find that these long form dramas, sometimes I can't finish them after the 50th episode or whatnot. Like I never finished Orange is the New Black. I
I
never
did.
finished The West Wing. I
I
never
did
finished
finish
a
Orange
lot of
Was the
them.
New Black. I got to tell you, it fell apart towards the end.
Hmm.
You were probably better off wherever you stopped watching it. You probably were good. If you went through like 3 seasons, and I went 5, you got everything that there was. It just,
Okay.
petered down like,
I never finished Mad Men. So I just after you watch 40 episodes or so, I'm like, I'm ready to move on to. I mean, I did watch every episode of Game of Thrones. I watched every Sopranos, 6 Feet Under, but a lot of series I just never finished, and maybe that I'll go back to one day. But
Yeah, I'm stalled on Poker Face right now. I
never watched it.
it's cute, but what it literally is a modern day female Columbo.
Oh, okay.
She is doing the exact same plots and the exact same stories that were around 40 years ago on Columbo. Because my
Okay.
parents were huge Columbo fans. And she even does that thing where she goes, "Oh, she's ready to leave because everything's been taken care of and the alibi is stone cold by the murderer." And then she says, "Oh, but one more thing."
Yeah.
You remember how Peter Falk used to do that always as Columbo? He'd turn around and say, "But there's just one thing. There's just one thing. How come, fill in the blank, but you did the opposite?" And then the whole thing would unravel.
Yeah.
And so the formula TV still exists, and people, what's old is new again. It's like in wrestling. In fact, the retro match, I always want to bring up, the retro match of the week for myself. So the retro match of the week was on Mid-South Wrestling, and it was great to watch a young, really young, pre-Heart Foundation Jim the Anvil Neidhart
Hmm.
up against Mr. Wrestling 2.
Hmm.
Now that's a retro match for you all. And the high knee lift as a finishing move is something that it was the 3-point stance in it was Jim the Anvil's power slam versus Mr. Wrestling 2's technical prowess and high knee lift, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a fun match to watch. I didn't actually know who would be necessarily the winner, although the big face at that time was Mr. Wrestling 2. But to watch a young Jim the Anvil Neidhart do his thing and really be kind of the underdog in that match, I found to be incredibly entertaining. I'm
I
I'm watching a lot of old DiBiase, when he was a young
DiBiase was
guy.
great.
Yeah, in fact, that reminds me, even though he's around, he's doing okay. There's terrible news about Mike Rotundo. Did you hear about that?
He had a major heart attack. Yeah, he's not well.
No, and that's a little surprising because he was not, in my opinion, one of the real heavy big guys. He always seemed to be in pretty good shape. So it's surprising to hear he's not that old. For him to have suffered
He
major
put
heart
on weight.
attacks.
He put on weight, and what I always tell people, mind and body are connected. And he lost a son. That's a terrible, terrible thing to go through. They say there's nothing worse. I mean, I don't have kids, so I certainly don't know. But they say there's nothing worse than losing a child. And stress can kill you, and grief can kill you. And there's been many, many cases where husbands and wives are together a long time, and one dies, and the next thing you know, the other one's dead within a
Well,
few
look
months.
at Afa and Sika.
Yeah, they went back to back.
Yeah.
And the other thing, taking it another step, there's been many, many cases where people retire and they're dead within 6 months. They don't have their routine. They don't have a sense of meaning in life anymore.
Yeah. I
Mind and
agree.
body are connected. And I'll tell you the other extreme. I'm out 8 in the morning today doing yoga in the park, 9 in the morning doing Tai Chi in the park. And I'm with women as old as 92, mostly Chinese, not all. And they're throwing kicks, they're doing hip rotations, they're balancing on one leg. They're 92. The leader is 88. She was a friend of Bruce Lee. And, and they look at me like I'm a kid because, they got 20, 25 years on me, some of them. And it's remarkable and it's inspiring. One of my buddies there is an 84-year-old retired Chinese doctor, traditional doctor, acupuncture and herbs. This guy's 84. He's balancing on one leg and doing all of this. So, again, mind and body. So what they do, I'm going to throw this out here. This will be the most important thing we talk about in 300 episodes. What they do is they exercise. Then they go out for breakfast together and socialize. Then they'll find a free class at the library, at the senior center, wherever. And then mentally they're stimulated. Then they're taking care of their grandkids. It's all like a circle: mind, body, friends, family. It's the lunatics that are venting all fucking day on social media. These guys are just raging. I don't care if you're for or against Trump, for or against Mamdani. They're just raging all day and sitting sedentary, eating crap and angry. And these guys, at some point,
Well, they're not just on social media. They're also on online video game forums. They're on, playing multiplayer games with their headsets.
Whatever it is, it's not good to be sedentary, staring at a screen all day. And, these people are just so this WWE guy, Ridge Holland, gets released, and they're raging that there was a GoFundMe set up for him. And Jinder Mahal says these NXT guys aren't making big money. And he went into detail how hard financially it can be on the road. And, you're not making it. This guy took a 50% salary decrease when he went from WWE to NXT, which to me sounds absurd because it's the same company. You're taking a 50% pay increase. You're on primetime TV, just like you are on a major network.
Well, TKO is really proving to be as heartless and as just cruel monetarily as any company I've ever seen in my entire life. They are bloodthirsty. and they really make no excuses about just being solely interested in the bottom line. I mean, Vince loved money. I'm not saying that Vince didn't love money, and I'm not saying that Tony Khan doesn't love money either, you know. But I have never seen a company just say, we don't care about our product, we don't care about our fans, we don't care about anything until it impacts us financially. And all that matters is what makes us a dollar or costs us a dollar. That is
Triple H
all.
said that great matches aren't their priority. He actually
Yeah,
said
perfect.
this.
That's a great topic for us to dig into. That quote just was like a slap right in the face. Where else in any other form of business could somebody say that the quality of our product doesn't matter?
And they even showed there was an interview with Triple H, who I'm not a fan of. So he said, we put a rocket on Jey Uso. Why? Because he has a great entrance and he sells a lot of T-shirts and he has charisma. It's not about being the best wrestler. Back in the Territories days, I know it was a long time ago, they would pick the best wrestler. Dory Funk Jr., Jack Briscoe, Harley Race, Nick Bockwinkel, whatever they generally, not always, they picked the best wrestler. It was about putting on a great match every night of the week, or at least attempting to. And now that's the least on their priority list. It's the end. They're choreographing.
You didn't even mention it as one of the things that was important. And when someone mentioned, doesn't that matter? He goes ahead and says, no, I don't care about it.
They're choreographing. They're showing on TV every motion, every mannerism, every facial expression as they make the entrance. Like, that's the priority, that entrance, as opposed to putting on a great match. And look, AEW is not flawless either. They slap together 10 guys. 3/4 of these matches are forgettable also. But in the course of a year, AEW will have more great matches than WWE at a fraction of the price. Not that they're giving it away. They just had $900, ringside for a pay-per-view. But that's not $32,000 like the next WrestleMania first row seat. That's not even a package from what I understand. That's just the seat, $32,083. Why $32,083? Because $32,000 wasn't quite enough.
Exactly. And 34,000 would be obscene.
Yeah. So what would possibly warrant $32,000? I mean, even if half the card was great matches, which it isn't, how do you rationalize 34,000 unless you're a billionaire and it's meaningless? I don't know.
And I would like to say that someone who's spending the $32,000, I would really like to ask them, name me 3 matches from WrestleMania that weren't the main events. And weren't like a women's battle royale or a men's battle royale. Name me 3 other matches from WrestleMania that weren't the main events from the 2 nights. I mean, you might guess it, but it might also be something that you saw on Raw, or it might be something that you saw on SmackDown, or it might be something that you saw on the next pay-per-view that came right after that. I mean, I can't discern these things. I know we've talked about it enough times on the show, but the melange of stuff. And it's weird because I can remember exactly what I saw on Mid-South Wrestling. It was just simple enough that what really all my mind had to comprehend was the action in the ring. That was really it. There were a couple of interview segments, and that was it. The match was the star. The match is what people tuned in and saw. There wasn't sing-alongs, and there wasn't long. I mean, like the Midnight Express probably had the most significant entrance at that point in time in Mid-South.
Well, basically, they just walked to the ring. They just had a great
and they had the
theme song.
music, and then music, and they had Jim Cornette, introduce them, which most other guys didn't have.
Right.
Most of the guys were in the ring at the time they got announced, and there was no music at all, no pyrotechnics or anything like that. I know you can't do a product like that today. Obviously, even indies have more, production value than Mid-South has. But I still find there's a value in watching wrestling that doesn't have all this pomp and circumstance laden everywhere you go. And that it's just the storyline is told in the ring. We talked about this last week, that there's a consistent storyline that goes from week to week, and that you don't have to have a blow off after with it, a feud start at the beginning of the show, fizzle during the middle of the show, and then blow off at the end of the show. And that you've got to do that every show. You've got to have your feud basically go and do its whole thing within one show, and then that's it. You move on to something else.
But what I find very disconcerting is you have all these fans who they'll say WWE is overpriced. They'll say a lot of the wrestling is disappointing, but at the same time they'll defend it like you kicked their granny. And how about it's just not worth? So one guy was saying he went to Raw like a year ago and it was $60. Now it's $160. How about that's not okay? And
well, they are saying that they are seeing sales of only like 4,000 seats to a lot of these pay-per-view events now. Where they used to sell 20.
With 2 kids. What if a mom and dad and 2 kids spent $160 a ticket before gas, tolls, food, souvenirs, parking? You're looking at $1,000 evening.
I'm not looking at $1,000. There's no way I'd spend that on even like if my kids.
I'm just saying, of course, attendance will be down at some point. Christmas is coming. People are getting ready to buy gifts and tips and parties and whatnot, and maybe seeing The Miz put on the same 3-star match doesn't warrant $800 in tickets.
I got a question for you. Do you tip your doorman?
I don't have a doorman.
Oh, you don't have a doorman?
The answer would be no.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you say tips, like I can't think of like what holiday tips.
We park a car in a garage. We tip all of them. We tip the super. We tip the porter.
See, we don't. I mean, here in California, none of that stuff happens.
No, I'm in a co-op, so we tip. We tip everybody, and it adds up. So maybe that $160 WWE nosebleed ticket is going to be, what you give up to do it.
Well, I wouldn't blame, and especially because then, as we pointed out, you're being pinched on the other side with wanting to watch stuff, and everybody wants you to pay for their streaming service. So, and that's the thing, is that you can't do the streaming service is a year-long commitment. So you don't get to just say, I just feel like watching this one WWE pay-per-view, and that's all I want to do. Maybe I'll watch 1 or 2 of them a year. Now they make you have to subscribe for a whole year, or if you want to, I don't know if you've ever tried to like cancel your subscription with one of these things, but like you can sign up for it really easily for free. After that month ends, you're going to probably spend an afternoon talking to different representatives about canceling your account. And some people just give up because they're like, you know what?
Yeah, they lose their will to live trying to cancel the channel.
Yes, and they're like, $20 a month is cheaper than me having a heart attack talking to this guy in Bangladesh and getting nowhere and being transferred 50 times and being hung up on. I'll just, pay the $20 per month,
Oh, I'll tell you, I've had times where I actually felt my blood pressure going up dealing with these cable companies. Back in the day, Time Warner would literally have you, the customer, on their hands and knees, like fiddling with wires because they didn't want to send the tech guy to come fix it, you know. And you're doing this for 2.5, 3 hours, and finally, I just said I brought back the equipment. I said I can't do this anymore, and I moved to another company.
Yeah, well, we don't have the luck of having other companies out here. Right? You know, cable basically is a monopoly unless you want to go to AT&T, another type of monopoly. You know, you get a choice. You have a choice between two different monopolies. That's how it works out here for the most part. But hey, you did say though that you went to a wrestling show just a couple weeks ago, right?
No, I worked two different conventions.
Oh, two conventions. How
Yeah.
did those go?
Good, good, good. It's funny as a vendor, it's really changed. It's really changed. It's like you don't you in the old days you'd buy a picture for $1 and sell it for $5 or whatever. Now it's like people are looking for rare stuff and you're not selling to nearly as many people, but on the right day, the right person could come and spend some money. But it's very you don't know what's going to happen. In the old days, it was very blue collar. You had these old guys, the vendors, old guys, and they buy a picture cheap and flip it cheap, and nobody got rich from it. Today, it's like people spend thousands and thousands of dollars on memorabilia. It's a different world. But as a vendor, many times, if you walk around after a show, a lot of people lost money between the table and the trans, and sometimes they bring in talent. It's very hit and miss, but I enjoy it because you meet people. And
So what were these fan fests, or what was the topic?
one was a fan fest. Jack Sabbath from Wrestling Universe put it on. That was in September. And then last week, you would have liked this. This was more like a sports memorabilia show. And Tito Santana was supposed to be there, but he got canceled. The vendor canceled at the last minute, had some kind of family issue. So there were not a lot of wrestling people there, but the ones I met were, great people, and they make me feel good. It's you worked on The Wrestler. That was my favorite movie, and you feel good. You meet people, and one guy bought my book, and but for the most part, the guy next to me was selling Pokemon cards. He said he made $4,000 the night before selling I don't know from this
I'm in the
stuff.
wrong damn business.
Yeah, $4,000 at the show the night before. So believe me, I've never made $4,000 at a wrestling convention. But I enjoy it though. You meet a lot of nice people, and they're very flattering. I love The Wrestler. I love 350 Days. Blah blah blah.
I did work a convention once, a comic book convention once in the 80s. And I worked with this guy who his mother had collected all this original Star Trek, all these original Star Trek toys. And we sold out like crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
you
those
should
little
have kept
plastic.
it. It'd be worth a fortune today.
We made, this is like 1983, and we made $2,000 in a day. So that was a pretty good fortune for back in the day to make that kind of money. So yeah, so if you have the right thing and you're in the right, also it depends on where your table is too. If you're way in the back, you might not get as much as when you're up front, or you're near like some really popular star or attraction, kind of thing. So
Well, and that could backfire too. I've done conventions as an agent many times. If your table is next to somebody big like a Kevin Nash or a Bret Hart, there could be so many people at that table that nobody sees the stuff on your table because the line is going past it. So
But if
I
people
don't
are
know.
stuck in a line for a long time, they might just, pay attention to you at some point because they got nothing better to do while they're waiting
Well, that,
for
that too. There's
for us
pluses
to
and
meet.
minuses with all of it. Scott Epstein, who is a great agent, and a great vendor. You know, he's gone to like 3/4 of the people we know. Scott Epstein used to say, I do 3 shows, I make money on 2 and lose money on 1. Like I said, this isn't a gold mine, any of it, you know?
Yeah, no. You know, and as I said, or as we've repeated, Mike and I have repeated, that the Fan Fest in 2007 was such a disaster here. There hasn't been another large scale fan fest like that for almost 20 years. We're almost moving on to 20 years since they had us in 2007. And it's so bad, it even got a Wikipedia write up.
Wow.
The disaster of how bad that fan fest was. I wound up getting its own Wikipedia entry. So, you know, nothing that anyone is too proud of. And it scared everybody off. Not only has it scared anyone off from promoting one and putting one together, but I think talent heard so much about it that it just poisoned the reputation of the entire Bay Area, and people just didn't trust or believe in the Bay Area to be able to put together a fan fest. I mean, you guys do those on the East Coast all the time, and they're really
Constantly.
popular. But
Constantly.
yeah, constantly. But here in California, fan fests, wrestling fan fests, are really rare. I mean, the truth is, a lot of those wrestlers do live on the East Coast, so for them, transit is not super expensive.
Well, most of the wrestlers live in Florida or parts unknown. The masked wrestlers live in
Yeah,
parts unknown
thank you. Yes,
with their
exactly.
masked wives, masked children, and masked dogs. So
Yes, thank
that's
you.
why they're just not out in California, most of them.
But yeah, a lot of them are in the South. A lot of them are on the East Coast, so it's easier for them to do those fan fests
Yeah,
without incurring.
Philly's a wrestling hotbed, and Florida, a lot of wrestlers
And of
retired.
course, New York.
Um, there's not a ton living in New York. New York's super expensive, but Philly was a real
Did
hotbed
you know
for
that
wrestling.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan was actually originally billed as being from New York City?
No, I think upstate New York.
When they were doing it in the Mid South stuff, they were saying
Oh,
he was
okay.
from New York City
Oh.
because to them, the South, the South is
No,
New
this is
York is
like
all.
New Yorkers. New Yorkers will take the Giants and the Jets in New Jersey as the home team, and not the Buffalo Bills, because that's like another world to us, upstate New York.
That, yeah, absolutely, like Schenectady or something like that. So you know, again, no really heavy topics outside of the death stuff that we always wind up talking about. But anything else that's on your mind? We got a couple minutes left, maybe about 5-10 minutes. So just you can
Yes,
throw out there.
yes. This has been a running theme with some of my older friends. We are very disheartened by the lack of human empathy, whether it's fanboys attacking wrestlers' GoFundMe's, you know, and being corporate apologists for the corporation and not the worker. You know, 50 years ago, you know, it was you wanted to overthrow the man, not be the man. Now they defend the ruthless company. You know, if you don't want to, if you're too cheap to throw a buck in the till for a GoFundMe, that's fine. But don't vent against the wrestler whose life just fell apart, you know, who's hurt, can't wrestle, needs an operation or whatnot. You know, it's like, I don't get it.
When
And
did
then,
charity become an evil thing? That is, I'm with you on that. I mean, it's this, you know, not to get overly political, but this whole SNAP situation that's going on right now. People are really like relishing kicking people who are down and people who are needy and people who are less fortunate than them. And that, to me, is not how I grew up. I know it's not how you grew up to look at people who are less fortunate than you and just look at them with such disdain and like say, you know, you're evil because you're poor, you know?
there are, look, I've taught adult GED, not just ESL over the years. And we had a lot of students who were collecting welfare on food stamps. And many had some kind of physical disability or
Mental.
mental, emotional, some kind. learning disabilities that limited what they could do. There's a lot of, there's always some small percentage of people who are scammers, okay, but you can't label like everybody that collects something. If you're 90 years old and have Alzheimer's, you're not going to be out in the job market. It's.
And we're all just an accident away or a serious illness away from being like those people. Trust me, having, had my shoulder replaced and my hip replaced, I understand what medical costs can do to a person. And for people to say, oh, it'll never happen to me. Hey, I'm X number of years old and it hasn't happened to me. But that's what I hear all the time from people who the next day get in a car accident, have a box fall on them at work, have, get sick. A friend of mine was just telling me on the phone the other day that she found out she had a mass inside of her that was the size of two fists that burst and almost killed her. I mean, you don't know what's going on inside your body at any point in time, and you can feel fine, but your body is doing things sometimes in the background that you have no idea anything about. It's like my friend Mark, the guy looked like a tank and he was super strong and everything, but his heart valve was never formed correctly inside. And the only way you could find out that it wasn't correct was to die and have an autopsy.
Wow. The thing is, there's a video online now with sobbing children as their parents are being taken away by ICE and deported, and the kids are crying hysterically. It's the worst day of their lives, and these scumbags come online and well, they were illegal. I have no empathy. I have no sympathy. Well, maybe you're a scumbag if you have no sympathy or empathy. Why the need to publicly say that? If you want to think it, fine. Just, don't breed and instill that in your children. But to go to watch a video like that and need to vent against the woman selling tamales or the kitchen worker, or the fruit picker, like this is some threat to society.
Or the wrestler who is saying, hey, I've just been injured and cut out from the WWE and I'm on my own now and I need some help, because I, spent all my money on my medical stuff and I spent all my money on travel and I spent all my money on hotels. As an independent contractor, none of that stuff was paid for these folks, and people are mad at them and they're like, oh, well, then you just shouldn't have done that. These people did that stuff to entertain you. Or the lady that's selling tamales was trying to feed you. The person who was cleaning your house was
and feed her children and make a better life. They didn't leave their country because things were wonderful. They left the country because it was horrible and they wanted a better life here.
But they don't want to take things away from us. People are acting like they're thieves or that they're people that are stealing something from them.
But billion-dollar corporations that are hiding taxes overseas, somehow there's no rage, there's no upset, and you got idiots like these two podcaster mopes who go, oh, Vince McMahon is my hero. He's a great American. It's like you picked some corporate vulture as a hero, but you're worried about the woman, selling, bubble gum in the subway, with a baby on her back. This is who you're worried about. You're not worried about the corporate vulture, right?
Yeah, no, the impact and corporations have spent a lot of money and put in a lot of effort to turn us against ourselves and to not look behind the curtain and to see who's really pulling the strings. And I know that this could start us down a podcast level that, we don't want to get into, conspiracy theories and anything like that. But look, Tuesday there was a huge election. The things changed, I think, for the positive, especially here in California, and I think there may be a sea change where people have seen how that kind of corporate environment can't just run the world unrequited. without anybody checking them, and the common person being able to hold these people like Musk in check, or our TKO or whatever, in check, and just say, look, the power ultimately does rest with us. These corporations couldn't exist and do the things they do if they didn't have our money, and they didn't have our faith, and they didn't have our loyalty. And so maybe we're going to be moving back to an era where we take that part back and not be so afraid of the maids and the janitors and the gardeners, and the people that we have that are helping do the lower echelon stuff, and looking more up to the people that are really pulling the strings and causing things to be
Years
much
ago
harder
in California, they put an ad in the paper looking for people to pick fruit. Not one native-born American wanted to pick fruit in 110-degree heat, in the summer. Come on. So why champion they're being deported, but they're illegal? Yeah, you go do the job, genius. I mean,
it's a misdemeanor, and that's the whole thing. Is yes, they're illegal, but it's the same thing that you would get if you cross the street against a stoplight or something like that. It's a misdemeanor if you play your radio too loud at night, and annoy your neighbors. That's as much of a crime as what these so-called illegals are guilty of. Yeah. Now, I don't mind staying on this soapbox, but again, don't want to, turn this into a political thing. But it all ties back into the things that we don't like about AEW, and especially about the WWE and corporate wrestling, which is always going to be an enemy of this show. But meanwhile, let's end it on a more positive note. We hope Mike is feeling better. Hope he comes back. We're gonna have some good guests coming in the next few weeks. So I urge everyone to stay tuned. I'll let you know the guests when we have them. And anything else you'd like to add? You can plug your book.
Yeah, I'm trying to raise $32,083 for WrestleMania 42, so I need to sell some books, okay? So wrestling rings, blackboards, and movie sets at $25 a pop, or only $9.99 on Kindle. If I sell a couple of thousand, I could get my $32,000 WrestleMania.
Or
ticket.
How about this? You are sent one ticket to WrestleMania, and you'll send all your books to whoever sends you the ticket. You'll just have a big crate, and all your books will go over to that person.
That's right. And you could also message me. I'm on Facebook. We have some great autographed pictures and stuff, cheap Christmas present or whatnot, holiday gift. Tons of wrestling legends, and most of them are like $15. It's very reasonable. And drop me a message, and check out Wrestling Then and Now, the documentary, 350 Days, the documentary. And we will have other projects out in 2026. COVID slowed everything down a bit, but we're about to release.
It's taken a while to catch up. It has taken. I feel like now we're just sort of like getting beyond what COVID did to us. And it's everybody, their mentality. COVID isn't on our minds anymore, even though people are still coming down with it. People are evolving beyond that, and we're not limiting ourselves because COVID and the supply line issues and all these other.
I'll tell you, sometimes in New York, I see young people in the street with masks. Like I think it just affected them, the 2.5 years of that.
Well, and I still have friends who are coming down with COVID. So, be safe out there, everybody. So we'll see everybody next week. Good night, everyone.
Well.